So you understand now the importance of Mrs. Voorhees and her reign of terror, and how it really adds to the legend of Crystal Lake.
I see. But the thing, Tommy, Mr. Jarvis, that still puzzles me is that if Jason's mother sought revenge and she gets killed in the process, how does Jason come back if he was in fact the one to die in the first place? You see, it's that one detail that makes this whole Voorhees case quite a hard pill to swallow.
You see, that's all part of the legend. Now, whether or not Jason really drowned, nobody can say for sure. There's no concrete evidence about it. One thing I do know for sure, though, is that having grown up and living in the Camp Crystal Lake region, you hear a lot about the legend of Jason as a kid, and you even hear about his mother. And hearing about Jason as a phantom of the wilderness, you don't know what that's going to do to a kid. I mean, it really serves as a way to help keep you in line, making sure that you behave properly.
So there's sort of a campfire tale legacy to the Voorhees family. But there were actual murders that were in fact committed by Jason. That is correct, right? So I have little notes here. Saying that starting on July 13th at the Packanack Lodge, Jason Voorhees had slaughtered a group of trainee counselors, but only for one of them. It says, what was her name? Ginny Field. She eventually did get the best of him, according to her statements. But her story was initially not believed and would not be believed until quite a few years later. She had initially been written off as sort of a loony.
Yeah, she was one of many to be just written off. The authorities, they knew everything. Even though they didn't want to admit it or bring it up, they did know everything. But let me tell you one thing. My mom, she was pretty freaked at the time. I remember her showing a certain sense of panic, but not really making it too apparent. I mean, I was only 12, but, after the Packanack Lodge slayings, there was a domino effect that really launched Jason Voorhees' killing spree and made his name synonymous with Crystal Lake.
What is up, clean freaks and filthy friends alike? Welcome back to the Friday the 13th review series. This is the single largest collaboration of Friday the 13th review series ever to be presented to YouTube, as far as I know. This one is, of course, being brought to you by myself, the boys at Good Real Hunting, Metal Thrash and Madness co-host Nick Cooling, Robbie Sobel, and Chase from Moser Movie Reviews. And on top of all these awesome reviews that you are getting weekly, you also have House of the Living Dead doing their watch parties for these Friday the 13th films. This is absolutely the coolest thing ever. Each week we're releasing one film, all in the magnificent build-up to the Friday the 13th, the date in August. So be sure after each review to check out the House of the Living Dead Friday the 13th watch party. This week, of course, we are looking at part 2. This came out just a year after the first one. In fact, I think it was less than a year. And this is one that does not disappoint. It does pretty well at delivering a follow-up story, really building and adding on to the mythology that was set up in the first film. So let's take a look, guys, at Friday the 13th, part 2. Friday the 13th Part 2 came out in 1981, was directed by Steve Miner, stars Amy Steele, John Fury, Steve Dash, or Warrington Gillette, depending on who you ask, plus an assortment of other 20-somethings. This one tells the story of Jason Voorhees in his first outing, taking the mantle from his mother, who really gave the franchise a body count, a bit of a head start in the first film. Here we get a new batch of counselors who are really more so trainee counselors who are getting ready to open up a summer camp on the other end of Crystal Lake, some 5 years after the original film. And they are at the Packanack Lodge, which is just a beautiful fucking place to be. Of course, Jason is going to kill a bunch of these people and really cements the way that the franchise is going to continue going forward from this point. What I like about this film, and there is a lot to like, believe me, the story, of course, of Jason coming back to avenge his mother, again, it's pretty much the reverse fashion of the first film, so it's like they're giving you the same thing, but they're putting a little bit of a twist on it. And I don't mind that, in theory, it really is the same as the first film. Of course, with the role reversal of the kid coming back to avenge his dead mother. Did he really jump out of the lake in the first one? Who knows? We're not here to fucking dissect that right now. I also enjoy the characters in this film, and I think what I really like about the characters is that with their personalities, they are a great deal of an upgrade from the characters we got in the first film. I mean, you've got Ginny, who's our final girl. She's a lot more interesting of a character than Alice, and that's not to take anything away from Alice. I know I gave her shit the first time around, but Ginny definitely has a lot more of a personality to her. She majors in child psychology, which may or may not come in handy later in the film. She's a little bit spunky. She's just a lot of fun, and she's got the little love thing going on with Paul, who's the... I guess you could say the main facilitator, however that word's supposed to go, of this group of counselors. He's a bit of an avid outdoorsman. He delivers this fucking super iconic speech in the film that I think is one of the big draws of the film. I mean, I don't want to scare anyone. I'm going to give it to you straight about Jason. That whole spiel. He's a fun guy. You kind of come to care about his relationship with Ginny, and you want to see them together and succeed and survive till the end. We still don't know what happens to Paul. Spoilers. We also get Vicky and Mark, who would have made a cute couple. They had great potential there. I mean, Mark's this fucking badass dude in a wheelchair, and as soon as you see him on screen, you're like, God damn it. Because you know he's going to die, and you know it's going to suck. Vicky's just a fucking... She is a go-getter, man. Vicky is determined to get Mark in her bed. You also have Scott and Terry, who... They're not really an item, but there is potential. If only Scott approached her like a normal freaking adult, he would have had a chance with Terry, I think. And plus we get Jeff and Sandra, who... Come on, we all know Jeff and Sandra from this movie. And you get Ted, he's more of a background character. We get a little bit. He's the prankster who, I'm going to say right now, he survives, and he's just a fucking awesome character. He really goes against the grain. He does everything that should get you killed in a horror movie, but he manages to survive, which was fucking batshit bonkers, and I'm glad he survived. He was fucking enjoyable. Crazy Ralph returns, of course, in a really... interesting fashion. Of course, he's still the town creep of sorts, and yeah, he gets killed off, and it's like, okay, we didn't need him around too much longer anyway, but it was nice to see Walt Gorney back. Really gives the film a great natural progression of sorts. Of course, we get what's her nuts from the last film, Alice, coming back. She comes back briefly, and I'll talk about that scene here in a little while. And of course we get Jason Voorhees, the man himself. Here he's got the sack head, which I think the sack over his head is miles and away creepier than the hockey mask. Of course the hockey mask is more iconic, but it doesn't feel like a natural sort of backwoods maniac. I think the Sackhead really brings that sort of backwoods nature out in a more realistic, a lot more terrifying of a way. Sure, the hockey mask is scary, but that Sackhead, man, that Sackhead is fucking insane. And sure, he's a little bit clumsy throughout the film, but seriously, you guys try running out in the dark with a sack on your head with a single eye hole cut out. Let me know how that works out for you. Tell me that you don't trip over 15 different items. Just saying. The Packanack Lodge as a setting is just, it looks like a lot of fun to hang out there. If there's one Friday the 13th set that I would like to visit, it's definitely the Packanack Lodge. The kills in this film aren't as top-notch, I feel, as they were in the first film, but this one does kind of continue the let's make them more interesting. And, you know, they're not the same old hat that you get in the first film. They do some of the old classics, like a good old neck slice and whatnot. But I think this one actually does possess, I think, two of the, you could say, top 10 Friday kills. Like, there are two major staple kills that occur in this film. And this one, I think, is probably got the best third act and final chase scene in the franchise. I mean, you've got Jason, of course, chasing down Ginny, and Ginny again as a final girl. Absolutely amazing. If you guys saw my top 10 final girls video, Ginny got lots of love on that. So I think that it is definitely one of the best crafted chases. Like, you even have, before that, she's speculating on what Jason may or may not be. So when she's faced with having to run from Jason and have that showdown in the old shack out in the woods, I think that really helps elevate it. And when she does the psychology on him, puts on the mom sweater, and just gets ready to trick him so she could take him out, that was a brilliant scene. And of course you get Betsy Palmer back in a cameo that apparently she never remembered doing. So that's a lot of fun there. And this one also does... I also like that this one takes what the original film did, and I think does it better in a lot of ways. Of course, from the story, to the characters, to the pacing of the film, I think Friday the 13th Part 2 really does a lot more with what it has. It realizes the potential that was there in the first film, and then they say, okay, how do we grow this? And they do just that. They take the first film and they elaborate on it, they grow on it, and I think that Friday the 13th Part 2 does make for a much more enjoyable experience because of how it's paced, because of the fun, engaging characters, and the story getting to a real interesting point, and watching this with the idea that Jason's not yet a horror icon. Trying to watch it with that mentality, that just set the movie on a whole new level and gives, I think, a whole new sense of appreciation for it. Now, moving on to the negatives, there's not really anything I'm mixed on, and these are... they're negatives to nitpicks, really. They're... Of course, the opening scene with Adrienne King, it's nice to see her back and get some closure on Alice, but the whole opening is just Alice having a dream, which is just a flashback of the end of the first film, and it gives a nice recap, of course, of her meeting Mrs. Voorhees, cutting off Mrs. Voorhees' head, and then waking up, and in the build-up to her death, we see that Alice hasn't changed. Of course, she's a little traumatized from the experience in the first film, which is understandable. I get that. But we see that she is still the same meanderer that she was in the first film. It wasn't fully necessary, I felt. It feels like they're really just padding out runtime for the film. A lot like how I feel they did when they had her meandering in the first one. But yeah, I think the bright side of Alice coming back to meander before her death, I think it benefits in that it gives the audience a sense of closure. And also, this one, I know this worked pretty well in the first one with the dream sequence of Jason jumping out of the lake and pulling her into the water. But this one kind of does that same thing with the dream ending. I don't know. I think that was it all a dream when Jason jumps through the window, grabs Ginny, and then you just see her getting taken out into the ambulance? I chop it up to that having been just a dream because we don't really get to see Paul, so that's kind of a bit of an issue there. And I think this is really leads to an argument that has really plagued a lot of the continuity questions community of Friday the 13th. Was it a dream? I believe so. And one reason why I say it definitely was a dream is the appearance of Jason when he jumps through the window. He's got that beard going on and the long hair on the side. Like, he looks like Mountain Man Jack or some shit. And beginning of part 3, he's bald and a little bit taller. That difference from one film to another, which, spoiler alert for part 3, takes place only hours after this one ends. I think it makes perfect sense that it was just a dream. Like, she probably passed the fuck out when her and Paul get back to Packanack. As far as Paul's fate, I don't know. I don't want to speculate on what happened to Paul because I like him just a little too much. And with that said, give us some fucking closure on Paul, please. Moving on to the filthy features. As always, we start with the favorite kill. And as far as the kills go in this, I really am mixed on 2. From day to day, it can change. Like, it's always between Mark and the wheelchair when he gets the machete in the face and his wheelchair fucking rolls down the stairs. And, of course, Jeff and Sandra's kill. And today, it's going to be Jeff and Sandra with the very Bay of Blood influenced Shishkabed kill. Hashtag Shishkabed. It's a very iconic scene. Of course, they're ripping off the Bay of Blood from, what was it, 1972, I believe. And this was a kill I always liked, even as a kid. And with the Scream Factory release here, you get the restored footage, sadly not integrated back into the film, but you see that they were able to get the footage, kind of clean it up a little bit, showing that kill in its full brutality, and it's just fucking amazing, guys. It does not disappoint. But the Shishkabed kill is definitely the winner of the day. Ask me tomorrow, it could be Mark. Moving on to the smutty sightings. Of course, we've got Jeff and Sandra getting their bone on. Of course, when they're pinned together with the spear, what else would they have been doing but getting some of that post-coital cuddling? So we get them fucking. We get the after effects of them fucking. There's a whole story behind that on the. Yeah, we're not even gonna touch that. Also, we get Terry, who you think throughout the whole film is like, oh my god, this girl is such a dick tease, wearing her short shorts and tight shirts. But yeah, we get her skinny dipping in the lake, and that was always, I think. That was probably the highlight of this film for me, even as a kid. So getting to see Terry without her clothes, that was like, yes! This one definitely doubles down on the smut factor. Moving on to the Friday exclusives, we've got the TGIF Pinup Girl, which of course is hottest chick of the flick. And this one is probably, for me, honestly between Terry and Vicky. But I seriously might have to go with Terry because, of course, we get the skinny dipping scene, which was just mentioned. Yeah, we are introduced to her ass before we're even introduced to her face, so she makes a hell of a first impression on us. Vicky, though, see, this is where it gets hard because Vicky's like kind of that good girl that you want to take home and introduce to your folks, you know, but I gotta go with Terry. I gots to go with Terry. It's Terry, man. Terry is the TGIF Pinup Girl, no questions asked. And for the other Friday exclusive, we are taking a look at My Crystal Lake Memory, which, as you guys may know, is just my personal experience with this film. And that is that this was about, I think, probably the third Friday the 13th film that I saw as a kid. I still actually have the old DVD from back then. It's still plays well. The case is a little fucked up after having had it for like 20 years. But, you know, this was one that I remember not liking so much as a kid. I was a little frustrated because it doesn't show Jason very much until about Vicky's death that we actually get to see him clearly. And I remember also being a little bummed out that he was wearing the sack head, which, of course, over the years I've come to madly appreciate. But I used to hate Sackhead. I remember as a kid, though, I just did not like this one very much. I liked the kills. I liked everything with Jason until we saw Jason. So this is one that you could say from being a kid to an adult, I have made a complete 180 on. But hey, I was a dumb kid when I first saw this one, so what the fuck did I know, right? Anyway, in closing, I gotta say that Friday the 13th 2 is easily one of the strongest of the sequels. I mean, many of the sequels, in my opinion, are better than the first one. That's, of course, a matter of taste, but this one, I think, it really sets the precedent for what the franchise would become. It paves the way for many more sequels to follow. Of course, the reliance on that fucking dream sequence of an ending is one way to do that. But, man, Friday the 13th 2 is one that I tend to go back to a little more than the first one. And it's really neck and neck, I think, with 6 and 4 is my favorite. Usually 4 reigns supreme, but we'll see that come the rankings later on. But, man, all I gotta say is Friday the 13th Part 2, it's one that you definitely gotta check out. It's Jason's first outing. There's not a whole lot to really complain about this one outside of the nitpicks that I did present. If you need the hockey mask to be in the film, though, then I would advise maybe don't check it out if you don't want to get frustrated. But if you like the old sack attack, Friday the 13th Part 2 is just for you. As always, thank you all for watching. Please be sure to like and share this video, and if you have not already, go ahead and stab the fuck out of that subscribe button. Be sure that you also check out the Friday the 13th Part 2 reviews by Nick Cooling, Good Real Hunting, Robbie Sobel, and Chase from Moser Movie Reviews. And also tonight, be sure to go on over to House of the Living Dead and watch Friday the 13th Part 2 over there. That's going to be a lot of fun. The sack attack, baby. If you're feeling extra filthy, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Do you prefer Friday the 13th Part 2 to Part 1? What do you guys think of the Shishkabed kill? And in the meantime, be sure to go check out these social medias here. We've got the Facebook, the Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd, Patreon, and the Stream Demons fan page over on Facebook. And in the meantime, stay filthy.